Hello everyone, I'm your IELTS tutor Jack and welcome to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. Today's topic is another favourite. It's food. I really love food. I've talked about it so much on my channel, so I'm really passionate about today's topic. If you'd like to see today's questions, vocabulary, expressions, please go to my website, www.jacks-english.com. And of course, I would really appreciate if you liked the podcast on the podcast platform that you're using, or of course on YouTube if you're watching the video, and leave your comments below. I really appreciate that, and I check every single one. Now, before we start today's topic in the IELTS questions, I'm going to deal with something that is a big burden on my mind, which is that British food has an awful reputation. I guess I do know where this comes from, but it's such a stereotype of British food, and I love British food. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock, and I'm going to give myself a challenge to convince you that British food is worth trying in 1 minute. I don't think I can say everything in a minute, but let's see what I can do, and let's see if I can give you some motivation to expand your mind and try some different types of British food. Let's put 1 minute on the clock. That's all done. I'm going to convince you to try and enjoy British food, starting now. British food has more variety than you think. There's so many types of British food and we don't hear about it. So the first one I want to tell you about is sausages. There are so many types of sausages from around England, and each region has their own sausage. So there's all the different flavors, and there's Cumberland sausages and Lancaster sausages. I really recommend going to England, going to a butcher and trying all these different types of sausages. And I promise you, at least you will think of England when you think of sausages in the future, not just Germany. The next thing I think you should try is cheese. Cheese also, every single region of England has their own cheese. So if you go to a cheese shop, there's hundreds of types of cheeses and they are wonderful. Finally, I'll tell you about pies, and I could talk about pies for days, but British pies are fantastic. There's beef pies, savoury pies, sweet pies. That was much shorter time than I was hoping for. I really could talk about British food all day long, and I hope you try it. I won't say any more. Hopefully I've convinced you, but let's go straight on to our first IELTS question of the day. What is your favorite cuisine? My favorite cuisine it's really difficult to answer actually, but for now I will say Indian. In England, we eat a lot of Indian food. People may not know, but there are so many restaurants, Indian restaurants, owned by Indian people very often. And I love spicy curries, I love naan bread, and I love the poppadoms with dips. So yeah, I would say Indian food. What's your favorite meal of the day? My favorite meal of the day has to be dinner. I do like breakfast a lot and it's very important to me, but there's not enough variety at breakfast. So dinner to me is the most important meal. Okay, I shot through those as quick as I could. Let's do a part 2, and let's just make sure I see this list of vocabulary and include some in today's answer. 2 minutes is on the clock. Tell me about your favorite restaurant. Now, I have nothing planned. I'm just going to go with the first thing that comes to my mind. 2 minutes on the clock starts now. I'd like to tell you about my favorite restaurant, which is a French restaurant in Seoul. I can't remember the name, but it's a very lovely restaurant in Seoul. So in about 8 years ago, I went to this restaurant for my birthday, and I wasn't expecting much. I went into the restaurant and it was a very nice looking restaurant. It was quite rustic, and I was a big fan of French cuisine, so this was a good choice for me. But they really put on a great course menu. It was actually wonderful, scrumptious. And at the end of it, they gave me a birthday cake because we had told them it was my birthday. I wasn't expecting it, but they brought out a really nice, moist birthday cake, and it was a great end to a great meal. Let me tell you a little more about this restaurant. I've actually been there a few times now because it was such a good experience, but it's a kind of red colored restaurant, and it's a little bit dark inside. They've got really nice cutlery, plates, bowls, etc. And the staff are really nice. That's an important thing. They also have a very large menu. I'm not a picky eater, so I do like to see all the sort of unusual foods that I can try. On the other hand, I do often go with the foods I'm familiar with, which I like, such as French onion soup. So for me personally, it's my favorite restaurant in Seoul. I wish I could tell you the name of it so that I could recommend it, but I always forget because it has a French name. In the future, I really want to go back there several times. Perhaps I'll live in Korea another 5 years, so I hope to go back there another 2 or 3 times in the next couple of years. Okay. Oh, stop. There you go. Yeah, I didn't have a restaurant prepared, and the restaurant I chose wasn't ideal for answering a question because I don't know much about it, but it is one of my favorite restaurants. I did include some of today's vocabulary, so please check that. And now let's move on to some part 3. Just remember, before I answer, you should be listening for direct answer, detail, example, and conclusion. Those 4 elements will probably be in my answer. Listen for them and it will help you construct your answers. So I don't need any timer, I can put that aside. How can we make people eat healthier food? I think there are so many picky eaters, and a lot of people that I know have a sweet tooth. So how can we make people eat healthier food? Maybe you can make sweet food be more, or healthier food sweeter, and make it therefore more attractive. The problem sometimes is that healthy food can be quite bland, and I know this is not entirely true. I know it can be delicious. You can cook very tasty food that's also healthy, but it does take time. So if there could be a way to offer food that is perhaps sweeter, perhaps stronger, more accessible to people, then that would be a way to make people eat healthier food. Let's do another one. Do you think that cooking is a pleasure or burden for most people? I think for most people, cooking is a burden. A lot of people work long hours, or they have children, they have commitments, and cooking very often takes getting on for an hour or maybe even longer. I know for me, when I cook dinner at the weekend, I have some more time. I take almost 2 hours to cook, but that's because I like it. A lot of people don't enjoy cooking and they just see it as a burden. Right, let's do one more question and wrap up today's episode. Do you believe that the 21st century diet is a healthy one? I think the 21st century diet is on the whole not very healthy. We have a lot of fast food, and we eat a lot of, instant foods from the convenience stores or quick snacks, things like that. So that's not a good thing. On the other hand, there is a bit of a movement towards healthy food because of sort of Instagram accounts that promote healthy eating and celebrities who promote healthy eating. So I wouldn't say it's as bad as 10, 20 years ago, but it could be a lot better. Right, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I certainly did. I always do, especially when it's these kind of topics that I'm familiar with. So don't forget, like today's podcast, comment, subscribe, And come and check out my website, www.jax-english.com, to get the free handout. I hope you have a wonderful week. Study very hard, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.